A beta was actually pregnant. And right now, the other biological father of my child was standing before me, his face cold as he held my transfer request in hand. "Why do you want to transfer to logistics?" he asked. I replied calmly, "Managing logistics is important too." He took a deep breath. "I know logistics is important. What I want to know is why you suddenly want to step down from the battlefield." Instinctively, I placed a hand over my lower abdomen. It seemed that unless I gave him a reason convincing enough, I wouldn't be able to get this transfer approved. So I took a deep breath and said, "My Omega is pregnant. The baby isn't very stable. I need to be there to take care of him." For a moment, Alaric froze. The transfer request slipped from his hand and fell to the floor. "Welcome to Avenor BL, where words whisper love and hearts find warmth. You're listening to an original BL story, brought to life through voice and emotion. Let your heart rest, and let the story begin." To be honest, the child in my belly was an accident. Even the child's other father didn't know about it. Alaric was an S-class alpha, one of only 3 in our country. From what I knew about military records, all 3 S-class alphas had been registered with the government, and all 3 were sick. Yes, literally sick. The world only saw their unmatched strength but never knew that each of them had a reason behind it, a price for their power. For example, one colonel suffered from a pheromone mutation disorder. As for Alaric, he had something called susceptibility phase schizophrenia. Simply put, on the second day of his susceptibility phase, he would split into another personality. And on the third day, he'd return to normal. And that other personality, well, he loved me to death. For the past 3 years, I had been his adjutant. Most days, I was his subordinate. But on the second day of every susceptibility phase, I became his lover. On the third day, I was his subordinate again. All our biological data was stored in the Military Research Institute, and everyone who knew the truth had hidden from Alaric the fact that he suffered from this mental condition. When the Institute discovered I was pregnant, they went one step further. They hid my pregnancy as well. They claimed they needed to monitor my physical condition closely and quickly filed for my transfer, urging me to move away from Alaric so they could conduct research. Because nowadays, betas could no longer get pregnant, it was considered biologically impossible. My pregnancy was nothing short of a miracle. I sneered at that. The reason betas couldn't get pregnant was simply because the alphas weren't strong enough. And mine was. But instead of understanding that, they insisted on studying me like a specimen. Of course, I knew the real reason behind it. In their eyes, someone like me, a beta, wasn't good enough for Alaric. The deputy director of the Research Institute, a bright and graceful Omega, had a compatibility score of 85% with Alaric. They believed he was the one destined for him. So naturally, they didn't want me to use a pregnancy as an excuse to keep Alaric by my side. In their minds, a beta like me was someone to have fun with, never someone to take seriously. How ironic. Most of the work that keeps the system running depends on betas, yet we're the ones they look down on the most. But honestly, I didn't care. Still, when I heard that the deputy director had volunteered to become Alaric's military doctor, I couldn't help giving him a moment of silent sympathy. He really thought Alaric was an easy man to deal with? After my transfer to the logistics department, life became much quieter. When the institute proposed the idea, I didn't hesitate for a second. I agreed immediately. I knew daily combat training wasn't good for my condition, and with the borders stable, my presence on the front lines wasn't needed anyway. I had been planning to find an excuse to transfer, but I didn't expect things to fall into place so conveniently. It was as if someone had handed me a pillow right when I was getting sleepy. The institute not only helped me get the transfer approved, but they also made sure it looked clean. Not a single loose thread left behind. To everyone aware of the situation, I was now the pitiful beta forced to leave his alpha's side. I almost laughed out loud. Me? Pitiful? If I didn't know myself, maybe I'd believe that too. Anyone who could survive 3 years at Alaric's side. They really thought I was weak? That I was to be pitied? September 25th, the second day of Alaric's susceptibility phase. He appeared in my office. He locked the door behind him, walking toward me at an unhurried pace. I watched him from the moment he entered. When he sat on the edge of my desk, I stood, reached up, and wrapped my arms around him. "I missed you, darling," I said softly. At my words, his body went stiff. The coldness in his eyes melted away in an instant. "Oh? Using your charms on me now?" I laughed in his arms. "Do I even look like someone who could pull that off?" Compared to Omega's, I was built much stronger, hardly delicate. He drew me closer. "To me, you're perfect." "Then why did you come see me today?" I asked, brushing my nose against his throat. "What do you think?" The first thing I saw when I woke up this morning was that deputy director hovering over me. I kicked him out before I even realized it, and now he's in the hospital. He frowned. "Was it him who pulled strings to get you transferred here? The moment I'm not around, everyone starts picking on you, and Alaric even approved your transfer?" I chuckled. "You still don't get it? If I didn't want to leave, no one could have made me." "You agreed to it willingly? Why? You belong on the battlefield, that's where your talent lies. And what's this I heard about you having a pregnant Omega?" I took his hand and placed it over my stomach. "No Omega. I'm the one who's pregnant with your child." He froze, eyes wide with shock. "When did that happen?" I raised 2 fingers. 2 months ago." For a moment he just stared, and then began to grin almost foolishly. After a few minutes of dazed laughter, he finally asked, "Does Alaric know?" I shook my head. "No. He's been upset about my transfer for days. And besides, it's not his child, is it? Why would I tell him?" He playfully bit my cheek. "Smart of you." I smirked. He was so easy to please, always had been jealous of Alaric, even though they shared the same body. I shifted in his arms, finding a comfortable spot to rest. He started talking excitedly about our child, about what the future would look like, his words a soft hum against my ear. Before long, I started to drift off. He talked too much. Alaric was better that way, quiet as ice. Pregnancy had made me terribly sleepy. At 11:30 p.m., Alaric carefully pulled me out of his embrace, laying me neatly on the bed beside him. I half opened my eyes, still hazy. He looked down at me, grinned, and pressed a light kiss to my lips. "Baby, I have to go. Midnight's coming soon." I reached up and looped my arms around his neck, kissing him lazily. "Go on then, you big softy." He nipped gently at my neck, then stood up, grumbling under his breath. "I'll come see you again next month," he said before leaving. I waved a hand sleepily and drifted back into dreams. The next day, when I came out of the research institute after my checkup, I ran into Alaric. He froze for a second when he saw me stepping out of the Omega maternity wing. "Colonel Alaric." I nodded politely at him. He glanced around. "Where's your Omega?" I smiled faintly. "He's already gone home after his exam. I came to pick up his report." I waved the document in my hand. "Oh." Seeing how pale he looked, I couldn't help asking casually, "What brings you to the institute, Colonel?" He sighed. "That deputy director, Kalen, the one who came to be my military doctor, he collapsed. You know my condition, on the second day of my susceptibility phase, I usually lose consciousness. He stayed to monitor me, but somehow he was found passed out in my quarters and was transferred here today. It's not really my fault, but I had to come check on him." Watching the crease between his brows, I knew he was annoyed. Whenever he got talkative like this, it meant he was frustrated. I nodded. "Ah, I see. The deputy director doesn't seem to be in good health. You'd better take good care of him from now on." Alaric looked startled. "Why should I take care of him?" I bit back a grin. "Your compatibility rate is so high. He even volunteered to be your personal doctor." "Colonel, surely you know what that means?" The corner of Alaric's mouth twitched. "You know I could never be with him." "Oh?" I blinked innocently. "How would I know that? He's the only one in the world with over 80% compatibility with you. You know what his pheromone smells like, Hautuinia. It's the one scent I can't stand in this lifetime." That was true. Alaric hated many scents, but none more than that one. Even if his pheromones were out of control, he would never touch Kalen. The smell alone made him nauseous. I smirked, patting his shoulder lightly. Tough job, Colonel. You'd better go see him. I should get home. My Omega's waiting for me. As we brushed past each other, Alaric reached out and stopped me. You've never mentioned that Omega before. Are you really serious about him? Or, is something wrong? If you're in trouble, tell me. I can help. Did he think I was being forced? I smiled and shook my head. No. I love him. He loves me more than anything. And I'm willing, truly willing, to have his child. Alaric's face darkened even more. Fine. Then I wish you happiness. Don't forget to invite me to the wedding. He let go of my arm and turned to leave. When I got home, I went over the medical report in detail. Everything looked good, both for me and the baby. I remembered the first time I saw him on the ultrasound. He was the size of a peanut back then. Now he was almost as big as a grape. Telling Alaric that I had an Omega lover had been nothing but a cover story, an excuse for when the child was born. Otherwise, if a baby suddenly appeared by my side, I'd have no way to explain it. After all, I'd always planned to keep the child but not the father. A child carrying superior genes, that was all I wanted. And Alaric was the perfect candidate. A top-class alpha, and I couldn't deny being drawn to him. My plan was simple. Once the baby arrived, I'd just say I got divorced. The child would stay with me. After tucking the report into a folder on the desk, I called a friend and made plans for dinner. I'd never cared much about food before, but ever since getting pregnant, I'd been craving everything. Luckily, I had plenty of friends. There was always someone willing to go out and eat with me. What I didn't expect was to run into Alaric again that night. I was coming out of the restroom when I saw him at the door. He looked drunk, leaning heavily on Colonel Cassiel's shoulder. I stepped forward. Colonel Cassiel, what's wrong with Colonel Alaric? Cassiel's eyes lit up when he saw me. He's in a terrible mood. Drank himself half to death. I was actually thinking of calling you. You're the one who usually handles him when he gets like this. Before I could reply, he shifted Alaric toward me. I instinctively covered my stomach and stepped aside. Sorry, Colonel. I'm not feeling too well lately. Let me find someone else to help. He looked me over for a few seconds, then raised a hand. No need. I'll get him home myself. Once we're there, you just make sure he's okay. I nodded. That worked for me, as long as I didn't have to do the heavy lifting. By the time we got to his place, it was past 9. Cassiel dumped him onto the bed before leaving. I set about preparing some hangover remedies, warm water, herbal tea, a towel. Whenever Alaric got drunk, he was quiet and obedient, though he'd always wake up halfway to wash up and drink something warm. So I went to the kitchen to boil water. Once it was done, I poured it into a thermos and turned around, only to see Alaric standing in the doorway, leaning against the wall. Before I could say anything, he spoke. Honey, you came to see me? Honey? Who was he talking to? Since when did he have a wife? Before I could react, he stepped forward and wrapped me in his arms. Why'd you leave me all of a sudden? I'm miserable without you. You have no idea, the Omegas around me all smell weird, and the Alphas stink too. Every day is torture without you. Why did you have to transfer? I told Cassiel about it today. He laughed at me. I was so upset. The people taking your place are hopeless. On the battlefield, you were my anchor. Now that you're gone, everything feels empty. Even that jerk Cassiel gets to have his spouse beside him when we deploy. And me? Nothing. The world's so unfair. I listened to him ramble, saying nothing, letting him vent his drunken thoughts. As for why he called me his wife, well, maybe it was just the alcohol talking. Or maybe that other personality had surfaced again. When he finally ran out of words, he pulled away, drank some water, washed up, and climbed back into bed. Lying there, he blinked at me, then patted the spot beside him. Come to bed, honey. I walked over, tucked both his arms under the blanket, and said gently, close your eyes. Get some sleep. Then, without thinking too much about it, I leaned down and kissed him on the cheek. After all, his second personality was technically my husband. A kiss goodnight wasn't a big deal. He shut his eyes and soon drifted off. It was already late. Going home now would take too long, so I stayed in the guest room next door. I'd always used that room when taking care of him before. My clothes were still in the closet, everything ready. The next morning, I woke him up and left for headquarters early. He watched me go, his expression dark. Back when I was his adjutant, I always stayed until he'd finished breakfast and we'd head to work together. But now that I wasn't his adjutant anymore, I had no such duty. The next day, when I came out of the institute after my physical exam, I ran into Alaric. He stiffened the moment he saw me leaving the Omega maternity ward. "Colonel Alaric," I nodded at him. He glanced around in all directions. "Where's your Omega?" I let the corner of my mouth lift. "He's already finished and went home. I came to pick up his report." I waved the report in my hand. "Oh." Seeing him look so ill-tempered, I felt a little worry and pretended to ask casually, "What are you doing at the institute, Colonel?" He sighed. "The deputy director at the institute, Kalen, the one who came to be my military doctor, collapsed. You know my condition. On the second day of my susceptibility phase, I can pass out. He'd been watching over me, but somehow he was found unconscious in my room and was transferred to the institute today. It's not really related to me, but I had to come check." Watching the crease form between his brows, I could tell he was annoyed. When he talked this much, it meant he was frustrated. I nodded. "Ah, I see. The deputy director doesn't seem in great shape. You'll have to take good care of him." Alaric froze. "Why should I take care of him?" I suppressed a grin. "You two are such a high match. He even volunteered to be your physician. Colonel, you do know what that implies, right?" Alaric's mouth twitched. "You know I could never be with him." "Really?" I feigned innocence. "How would I know? He's the only person in the world with over an 80% compatibility score with you. You know what his pheromone smells like, Hautuinia? It's the one scent I absolutely detest." It was true. Alaric disliked all kinds of smells, but Hautuinia was the worst for him. Even if his own pheromones surged, he wouldn't get close to Kalen. Just the smell made him want to be sick. I smirked and patted his shoulder. "You've had a tough day, Colonel. Go on, go see him. I'll head home. My Omega's waiting." As we brushed past, Alaric reached out and caught me. "You never told me about that Omega before. Are you serious about him? Is something wrong? If you're in trouble, tell me. I can help." Did he think I was being coerced? I shook my head and smiled. "No. I love him. He loves me desperately. I'm willing to have his child." Alaric's face darkened further. "All right, then I wish you happiness. Don't forget to invite me to the wedding." He let my arm go and turned away. Back at home, I went over the test results in detail. My health was excellent. The baby looked fine too. I thought of the first ultrasound when he was only the size of a peanut. Now he was nearly the size of a small grape. Telling Alaric I had an Omega lover had been a pretext, an explanation for when the child arrived. Otherwise, suddenly having a baby would raise too many questions. After all, my plan had always been to keep the child and leave the father out of it. I wanted to pass on my bloodline, someone with my genes. Alaric was the ideal candidate, a high-quality alpha, and honestly, I liked him. My plan was simple. When the child came, I'd say I divorced. The child would stay with me. I shoved the report into the folder on my desk and called a friend to go out for dinner. I'd never been picky about food, but pregnancy makes you crave things. Luckily, I had plenty of friends willing to take me out. I hadn't expected to run into Alaric again that night. I met him at the restroom door. He looked drunk, leaning on Colonel Cassiel's shoulder. I stepped forward. "Colonel Cassiel, what's up with Colonel Alaric?" Cassiel's eyes brightened when he saw me. "He's in a terrible mood. He drank himself into it. I was just thinking of finding you. Don't you always deal with him when he falls apart?" With that, he half-dropped Alaric toward me. I reflexively covered my belly and stepped back. "Sorry, Colonel. I haven't been well lately. Let me find someone else to help." Cassiel studied me for a moment, then raised a hand. "No need. I'll get him home. Once we're there, you take care of him, okay? I nodded. That was fine, as long as I didn't have to do heavy work. By the time we reached his place, it was after 9. Cassiel left him on the bed and left. I made a few things to sober him up, warm water, something light. When Alaric got drunk, he was mostly quiet, though he would self-summon to wash or drink something warm, so I boiled water and put it in a thermos. When I turned from the kitchen, he was in the doorway leaning against the wall. Before I could speak, he said, "Wife, you came to see me?" Wife? Who was he talking to? Before I could react, he was beside me and wrapped me up. "Why did you suddenly leave me? I'm miserable without you. You have no idea, those omegas smell like something else, and the alphas reek too. Every day without you makes me dizzy. Why did you transfer?" Cassiel laughed at me today. "It's unfair. The people covering your post don't do it right. You were always my anchor on the front. Now you're in logistics and I'll go into battle feeling empty. Cassiel even has his wife by his side in the field. I have nothing. I tell you, life isn't fair." I let him babble. I didn't want to argue with drunk talk. Maybe that's why he called me wife, alcohol, or the other personality. When he'd finished, he obediently drank, washed up, and got into bed. He opened his eyes, patted the space beside him and said, "Come to bed, wife." I went over, tucked his arms under the duvet, and told him, "Close your eyes and sleep." Then, impulsively, I kissed his cheek. After all, even Alaric's other self was technically my husband. Kiss was nothing. He shut his eyes and slept. It was late. Going home would take too long, so I slept in the guest room next door. It had always been my room when I'd cared for him. My things were still there. The next morning I woke him and headed to headquarters. He watched me go with his face clouded. When I'd been his adjutant, I used to stay through breakfast and head to work with him. Now that I wasn't his adjutant anymore, I didn't have that obligation. October 20th. Alaric finally woke up. After a full medical examination, he was declared perfectly healthy. I looked at the report and nodded. His body had recovered well enough to return to the battlefield. The next day we departed. Alaric looked at me puzzled. "Weren't you reassigned to logistics?" "Oh," I replied casually. "Major General Draven asked me to come along. If you have questions, you can ask him yourself." Draven was notoriously difficult to deal with, and Alaric clearly didn't want to invite trouble. He fell silent. 3 days into the battle, Alaric's pheromones, his powerful aura, had completely suppressed the Zerg forces. From the way he moved, the way his eyes sharpened with purpose, I could tell he was trying to finish everything before his next sensitivity phase began. According to his schedule, that would come on October 25th, when he would lose consciousness for a full day. And me? I felt a quiet sense of anticipation. Even though I didn't need his pheromone energy, the child inside me did. A little of that strength would help the baby grow stronger. So I waited for that day, for the appearance of Alaric's other self. When midnight struck on October 25th, I took my pillow and quietly opened his door. He was already asleep. I placed my pillow down beside him and lay next to him. Suddenly, Alaric stirred, startled awake. Sleep weighed heavy on my eyelids. I reached for his hand and placed it gently on my abdomen, then lifted my other hand and peeled off the suppression patch from his neck. "I can't sense it," I murmured, "but the baby needs it. Just let a little more pheromone energy out." Then I shifted closer to him, found a comfortable position, and drifted off to sleep. When morning came, I woke up in Alaric's arms. He was holding me tightly, almost protectively. When I looked up, I saw the tension in his face. I couldn't help but laugh softly. "What's with that look? Surprised to find me here, pregnant and still on the battlefield?" His face turned rigid, color draining away. I looped an arm around his neck, leaning fully into him. "Don't be angry. It's not that Alaric forced me to come. It's just that we work better together. And after you were poisoned, someone had to keep an eye on you. If anything happens to your body, what would you do? After all, it's yours too." I tilted my head slightly, teasing, "Did you release your pheromone energy?" He nodded. "Yeah. As expected, I can't smell a thing, I said lightly. But the doctors said it's good for the baby. So please just keep it coming. He still looked dazed, so I leaned in and brushed a soft kiss against his lips. Alaric froze for a moment before slowly responding, pulling me close as he deepened the kiss. It felt a little awkward at first, hesitant, almost shy, but soon he found his rhythm again. I figured he was still upset that I'd followed him into battle. But Alaric was always easy to calm, especially when I was the one to take the first step. When the kiss ended, I rested against his chest, catching my breath. He held me silently, saying nothing. Once we get back, I whispered, I promise I'll behave, all right? He nodded. All right, I'll make you breakfast. Just rest. I smiled faintly. Go ahead. As he turned away, something in his movements felt off. After breakfast, I wrapped a blanket around myself and read by the window. I need to attend a meeting, he said as he buttoned his jacket. I'll be back soon. What do you want for lunch? I'm not really hungry, I replied without looking up. He came over, took my hand gently, and rubbed it between his palms. You should eat something. You're carrying a child, don't skip meals. Fine, I said with a small smile. Whatever you make, I'll eat. Good, he murmured, brushing his hand through my hair. I laughed and ducked away. You're acting weird today. He froze for a brief second. You're imagining things. Just rest, I'll be back soon. I tugged lightly at his sleeve as he leaned down. Instead of saying anything, I pressed a playful kiss to his chin. Come back soon, darling. He nodded softly. I will. The door closed. My smile faded instantly. I opened my terminal and sent a message. To Zephyr, send me Alaric's confidential medical file, specifically the sensitivity phase data. He replied almost immediately. Zephyr says, got it, senior. Give me 3 minutes. I typed back a simple okay. Something about Alaric today felt wrong. Too calm. Too precise. Like the original Alaric, not the other one, the one I had known for years. If that was true, then where had the second persona gone? I reviewed all of Alaric's medical reports again. Nothing unusual. Still, I contacted Zephyr directly. There's a problem. When we return, I'll bring him in for examination. What kind of problem? Zephyr asked. I sighed. It seems his second personality has disappeared. Could it be because of the substance Kalen used last time? Zephyr suggested. Their pheromone compatibility was high. Maybe the serum affected his mental balance. I threw the book in my hand onto the nearby chair. We can't be sure yet. I'll keep observing him. But once we're back, we start full testing. Understood, he said quickly. Then, hesitating, he added, Senior, I heard Kalen's going to face heavy punishment? Yes, I said flatly. That was my order. Do you have a problem with it? There was a pause on the other end. No, Senior. You're right. 2 hours later, Alaric returned. He set a tray of food in front of me. See if this looks appetizing. I didn't look at the food. Instead, I watched him closely. He placed the tray aside, pulled up a chair, and sat across from me. Riven, he said quietly, you really are brilliant. I let out a soft laugh. Takes one to know one. So every time I lose consciousness, he continued slowly, another version of me appears, right? I nodded. How can you tell which one is which? Are we that different? I yawned. He can't cook. Alaric was silent for a long moment. Then it's true, he said finally. You've been with him. You and that version of me, you even have a child together. That Omega pregnancy you mentioned was a lie. You don't have an Omega. You're carrying my child. I nodded, then shook my head slightly. There is no Omega, that's true. But I'm carrying his child, not yours. He clenched his jaw. I won't argue that. Tell me this, how long has it been? Over 3 years. His eyes widened. So ever since this started, you were with him? Why? I arched a brow. Why? He turned away, exhaled slowly, then looked back at me. Never mind. You're a beta, right? Yes. So you don't need my pheromone energy, but the child does? Yes. Then stay with me, he said calmly. For now. I'll make sure the child gets what it needs. I frowned slightly. We already are together, aren't we? He shook his head. I mean 24 hours. No distance. No secrets. That night, Alaric came straight to my room. What are you doing here? I asked. He dragged a mattress from somewhere. Relax. I'll sleep on the floor. I just need to release a bit of pheromone for the baby. Oh, I see. I paused, then added, by the way, I already talked to the institute. When you go back in a few days, you should get a full checkup. Alaric's sensitivity phase still hadn't come. That had to mean something was wrong. If his next phase never came, the other him wouldn't appear either. And even if it did, I wasn't sure the other Alaric would show up again. If he never came back, after everything we'd been through together, wouldn't it be pathetic to end things without even a proper goodbye? The thought felt suffocating. Besides, that version of him had been so vivid, so alive. The idea of him just vanishing made my heart ache. Check up? Alaric said while spreading out his mattress. I feel fine. Honestly, if I never have another sensitivity phase, that might be a good thing. I sat up straight in bed. He looked at me and gave a short, cold laugh. What's wrong? Feeling sorry for him? Afraid that if I stop having sensitivity phases, he won't come back? I turned away and lay back down, too tired to argue. Relax, he said after a pause, his voice softening slightly. I was teasing. I'll get the checkup when we're back. Either way, I'll find a way to make sure he doesn't disappear. After all, he's the one you like. I frowned, suddenly wanting to argue. It's not exactly like. Oh? Then what, just physical attraction? Shut up. What was wrong with him today? He wasn't usually this talkative. And worse, he'd hit the nail right on the head. The next morning, Alaric received news that the Zerg forces were stirring again. We went to the battlefield together. He hadn't wanted me to come, but for some reason I just couldn't feel at ease staying behind. Sure enough, right after we finished planning the operation, Alaric entered his sensitivity phase. The medic tried to give him an inhibitor shot, but Alaric waved him off and glanced at me. My pheromones are flaring up. It's perfect for combat, he said. Besides, I've got some frustration to burn. He turned to the others. Lieutenant Riven will handle things here. Then he was ready to lead his troops out. I quickly stopped him. No matter what happens, be back by 11 tonight. He fell silent for a moment. You miss him that much? I hesitated, then said, he's never been on the battlefield. If he appears tomorrow without warning, he could die out there. Alaric nodded slowly. So he's that useless, huh? I had no words for that. He smirked faintly. Figures. He gets all the good parts. I do all the dirty work. Then he squeezed my hand lightly. Don't worry. I'll be back by 11 no matter what. All right. True to his word, Alaric returned from the front lines at 10:30 that night. But he had overused his pheromones to end the fight quickly, exhausting himself completely. He collapsed the moment he came back. The next day, the second day of his sensitivity phase, he finally woke up. I just stood there, staring at him, saying nothing. He blinked, confused, and whispered, Honey? What's wrong? I let out a shaky breath, pressing a hand over my racing heart. Then I rushed to the bed and threw my arms around him. Sensing my panic, he wrapped me tightly in his arms. Hey, what's going on? You're shaking. I shoved my wrist communicator in front of his face. Look, October 26th. His eyes widened. Your phase came a whole day late. I was terrified. Alaric. I thought you were gone for good. You have no idea how scared I was. To sell it, I pinched my thigh hard enough to force out a few tears. He stared at me for a moment, then narrowed his eyes. You kissed him or slept with him, didn't you? My breath caught. How was he so sharp? Just a kiss, I said quickly. He gripped my chin. I knew it. You only act this emotional when you've done something wrong. Look me in the eyes and tell me, just a kiss? I raised my hand. I swear. And come on, with the baby so small, do you really think I'd do anything else? You have to believe me. He sighed deeply and pulled my head to his chest. I believe you. It's not your fault, it's his. That shameless guy always crosses the line. You didn't do anything wrong. I nodded against his chest. He knows about you now. He snorted. So what? It's not like he can kill me. You're not in the best condition, I said. We should go to the institute soon for tests. Things are mostly wrapped up here anyway. I've already contacted Colonel Leor. He'll take over the front. Then we can head back. All right, sounds good. But I hadn't expected things to get complicated again. The next morning, when I realized his second personality still hadn't disappeared, I went completely numb. He, on the other hand, was thrilled, practically ready to celebrate. He poured 2 cups of warm water, handed me one, and clinked it lightly against mine. Come on, cheers. Here's to me taking over for good. Let's hope next time he's gone for good and it's just me left. My head buzzed at his words. If he really stayed forever, wouldn't that mean I'd lose my freedom? And besides, the country would lose one of its best soldiers. He'd never even been on a battlefield before. He'd have to learn everything from scratch. Training him would take forever. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got until I suddenly gagged. Hey, what's wrong? I waved him off. Nothing. I was so angry I almost threw up. The day after we returned from the battlefield, I took Alaric straight to the institute. The issue now, Zephyr said, rubbing his temples, is that the primary persona has vanished. He looked exhausted. There was no precedent for a case like this, no data, no reference. It must be the result of that pure pheromone injection, he added. Anyway, we'll start with a full medical scan and monitor him daily. Senior, I'm afraid you'll have to stay with the colonel constantly. I sighed. Once again, I was back to being a human surveillance device. This time, the second personality lasted 5 full days before disappearing. When Alaric woke up, I was feeding him orange slices. Here, have one. Super sour. I popped a slice into his mouth. The tangy sweetness burst out instantly. It was really good. Alaric chewed, face expressionless, and swallowed. Something felt off. If it were the other Alaric, he'd have spat it out and complained nonstop. You're Alaric, right? I asked. Yeah. Oh. Well, since you're awake, eat lunch and head to the meeting. We won the battle, there's a celebration later. Riven, he said suddenly. I put the last orange slice in my mouth. What? Let's get married. The orange peel slipped from my fingers and hit the floor. Let's register for marriage soon, he said matter-of-factly. After all, you're carrying my child. I raised a hand quickly. It's not yours. Oh? Then we'll do a paternity test later. If it's not mine, fine, I'll accept that. He looked at me steadily. After we're married, we can live just like before. I just don't want to miss out on my child's childhood. I want to be there every day. So you want to marry me for the baby? I asked flatly. Alaric shook his head. No. It's because of you. I've liked you for a long time. But you've always been wary of alphas, so I never dared say anything. Then things turned out like this, and, well, I'm not asking for much. Just marry me. I froze. You said you like me? He nodded. I even tested you once. Asked what you thought of alpha-beta relationships. You said it was messed up that beta-omega pairs were the perfect match. You said alphas couldn't control themselves, so you wanted nothing to do with them. Then later you suddenly said you had an omega. I thought maybe he was threatening you, and I wanted to save you. So I don't care that you were with another version of me, he continued softly. I just want to marry you, to protect you and the baby. I can live with you as a friend if that's what it takes. I clenched my jaw, staring at him, thinking he might as well tattoo jerk across my forehead. Seeing me silent, he didn't press further. You can think about it, he said gently. I'm not in a rush for an answer. It's just, this might be my only chance to be with you. When Alaric left, I sat there in a daze for a long time. This was bad. Really bad. Days drifted by in a blur. Lately, I'd been feeling a little drained, my body weaker than usual. After a quick checkup, I learned that the baby needed a large amount of his father's pheromones to stay healthy. So Alaric moved into my room. I took the bed, he slept on the floor. One morning, I woke up in Alaric's arms, and I instantly knew the second personality had emerged. "You're awake?" I nodded, yawning sleepily. "I ordered breakfast for you. Eat when you get up, I have a meeting to attend." I waved lazily. "Bye." When I came home that evening, I found Alaric staring blankly at a notebook. I walked over and sat astride his lap. "What's wrong? Alaric proposed to you?" I blurted out, "How did you know?" "He wrote down every detail for me and asked me to convince you to marry him." I tried to get off his lap, a little tense and guilty, but he wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me closer instead. "Riven, don't think I don't know what's on your mind." "What am I thinking, then?" "You're planning to have the baby and then abandon me, aren't you?" I froze. How did he know? "From the very beginning, you never planned to take responsibility for me. You just wanted to have me. Even getting pregnant, you planned that. You wanted a child with a strong lineage, and I just happened to fit that purpose." He lifted my chin with his fingers. "If the doctor hadn't told you the baby needed my pheromones, you probably would have kicked me out long ago. After all, you're such a cold, unfeeling beta." "Personal attack, really? I know why you became my aide now, to monitor me. A human recorder in uniform. But I don't care. Why you came to me, whether you really like me or not, it doesn't matter. I just want to know if you can take pity on me, marry me. I only appear once a month, for at most 5 days. But if we're married, Alaric and I can take care of you both every day. Besides, he adores you. After the baby's born, you can even divorce him. He'd still do whatever you say. Let's just give the baby a legal family, and let Alaric look after you for now. When we don't need him anymore, you can end it. Deal?" I almost found myself persuaded. But that's not fair to him. He lifted the notebook. "Look, he agreed to it. He just wants to stay by your side, even as a friend. Just take pity on the both of us, okay?" I rested my head on his shoulder. I supposed it wasn't impossible. That very day, he took me to get our marriage certificate. From then on, I had 2 alternating attendants. My quality of life improved dramatically. Every morning, breakfast was ready. Alaric handled all 3 meals. He took care of all the chores. All I had to do was eat, work, and sleep. Life had never been this easy. When the baby was born, Alaric held him, beaming with joy. That night, he smiled at the baby in the crib and said, "He's got the same little mark on his lower back as you, so cute." My eyes widened in shock. How could Alaric know about that mark? Only the second personality knew that. I shifted toward the bed. "Who are you, really?" Alaric froze, then his face lit with realization. "Ah, I slipped." I snapped. "What do you mean you slipped? What's going on?" Gone was the usual cool expression. "Darling, it's me." I shuddered. "What do you mean? You took over him? Is Alaric gone?" He sat down beside me, pulled me back under the covers. "Not gone. We've merged, he and I. I've liked you for 5 years. I knew you'd never fall for an alpha, but I couldn't help it. When I first changed into an S-class alpha, I wasn't in my right mind. I mistook a dream for reality, and in that dream you were my partner. When I woke up and realized what had happened, I thought I should take responsibility. It only happens on the second day of my heat. It's when the confusion sets in. But Kalen's pure pheromone treatment cured me. My hands trembled. So after your first proposal failed, you just switched personalities and tried again? Yeah. I threw a pillow at him. Yeah, what? That's marriage fraud. He laughed even as the pillow hit him. I was desperate. The baby was almost here. So what are you now, exactly? Which side is more dominant? He thought for a moment. Whichever one you want, I'll be that. Hero or fool, I can switch anytime. Yeah, definitely more of the original him. After learning the truth, I didn't want to think about it anymore. Things were what they were, we were married, and the baby was born. 2 husbands, 1 household, could be worse. 5 months later, when I got home, the baby was gone. Sent him to my mother's. I frowned. Why? He wrapped his arms around me. It's my season again. I missed you, it's been 5 months. My whole body tensed. He pulled me down beside him, resting his head on my shoulder. Please, sweetheart. I glanced at his open collar and swallowed hard. Pure temptation. The next morning, I raised my trembling hand and pointed at him, still grinning shamelessly. As expected, you alphas are all slaves to your instincts.
The story ends here. Below are my thoughts and comments on it. Sometimes love isn't a harmony. It's the fracture that fate leaves behind. In this story, what we see isn't just a miracle pregnancy or the power of an alpha. It's something far more human, the quiet struggle between strength and surrender. Riven and Alaric. They're not just 2 lovers. They're 2 sides of the same soul. One cold and rational, the other wild and burning. When love is pulled apart by science, by duty, by fear, they still reach for that small trace of warmth that keeps them alive. What I really love about this story is how it flips the idea of power. Here, the strongest alpha is also the one most trapped by his own heart. Of course, not everything is gentle. Some choices are cruel. Some silences are heavier than anger. Especially Riven's calmness. It's admirable and heartbreaking. So let me ask you, if it were you, would you tell Alaric the truth? Or would you keep it buried like Riven did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story left something lingering in your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me again for the next story. One that hurts, heals, and reminds us why we still believe in love.